Hi, this is John Brian Yako from BS Ed English 1. Today, we will be talking about the 5 hypotheses of Krashen's theory of second language acquisition. This theory consists of 5 main hypotheses. Number 1 is the acquisition learning hypothesis. Number 2, the monitor hypothesis. Number 3, input hypothesis. Number 4 is the affective filter hypothesis, and number 5 is the natural order hypothesis. Let's start discussing the first hypothesis, which is the acquisition learning. According to Krashen, there are 2 independent systems of foreign language performance. Number 1 is the language acquisition, and number 2 is the language learning. Language acquisition is the product of subconscious process very similar to the process children undergo when they acquire their first language. It requires meaningful interaction in the target language, that is, natural communication. Here, speakers are concentrated not in the form of their utterances but in the communicative act. Now, the language learning is the product of formal instruction, so it is a conscious process which results in conscious knowledge about the language. For example, knowledge of grammar rules. It is necessary to say that a deductive approach in a teacher-centered setting produces learning, while an inductive approach in a student-centered setting leads to acquisition. The second hypothesis is the monitor hypothesis. It explains the relationship between acquisition and learning, and defines the influence of the latter on the former according to Krashen. The acquisition system is the utterance initiator, while the learning system performs the role of the monitor or the editor. This monitor acts in a planning, editing, and correcting function where 3 specific conditions are met. The 3 specific conditions are sufficient time, focus on the form, and knowledge of the rules. So the rule of the monitor is to correct deviations from normal speech and to give speech a more polished appearance. Next is the third hypothesis, which is the input hypothesis. It is Krashen's attempt to explain how second language acquisition takes place. According to this hypothesis, the learner improves and progresses along the natural order when he receives second language input that is one step beyond his current stage of linguistic competence. Here, we discovered that natural communicative input is the key to designing a syllabus. Number 4. The affective filter hypothesis. This hypothesis says that a number of affective variables play a facilitative with no causal role in second language acquisition. These variables include motivation, self-confidence, anxiety, and personal traits. Krashen claims that learners with high motivation, self-confidence, a good self-image, a loud level of anxiety, and extroversion are better equipped for success in second language acquisition. On the contrary, low motivation, low self-esteem, anxiety, introversion, and inhibition can raise the affective filter and form a mental block that impedes language acquisition. So, for acquisition to take place, positive effect is necessary but not sufficient on its own. The last hypothesis is natural order hypothesis. This hypothesis suggests that the acquisition of grammatical structure follows a natural order which is predictable for a given language. Some grammatical structures tend to be acquired early while others late. This hypothesis also accounts for students' mistakes and errors. That is, students make mistakes when the structure used has not been completely acquired. However, students can use their learned competence to modify their production. So the best way to correct the student's mistake is to provide more input containing the structure in question. We must then take into consideration that we don't need to change the order or presentation of language items. In fact, Krashen suggests that we present the language without any conscious effort to organize it. On the contrary, he recommends a syllabus based on topics, functions, and situations.
She just wants to be beautiful.